Hi. So I want to talk about something that's pertinent to anybody who is on a healing journey, which I think is all of us. But it's something that has kind of been surfacing this week in my awareness and with some of the clients that I've worked with. And it also came up this afternoon in the Align to Heal group call. And it's something that I call a mental association, and it's really pertinent to the way in which we look at our healing journey. And so what I would invite you to think about for a minute, like no matter where you're at in your healing journey, I think for all of us, there's a moment when like our world kind of flips around, right? Like there's that moment when like up until this moment my health was pretty good and I felt good, and then all of a sudden things don't feel good, right? Like our body hurts, or we have anxiety, we have fear, we have depression, like whatever the symptoms are, doesn't really matter. But what matters is that there's a moment in your life that you can pinpoint as like the turning point from before this I was okay, and after this like nothing has been the same. And there's a perception that comes from this experience that I'm not the same because I got cancer, because I got this injury, because this pain started, because I was diagnosed with XYZ, right? And so, excuse my neighborhood sirens, right? So there's this notion that everything changed because of this thing that happened to me. And it's really easy in our mind to go to this place of like blaming the symptom, blaming the disease, blaming the injury, blaming the pain. And what I want to propose to you is that maybe it's not the disease or the pain or the injury that is the cause of your experience. So I was working with somebody earlier this week who had been diagnosed with cancer, and she went through something in a personal relationship after she was in remission from the cancer, and from that moment on nothing had been the same in her life, meaning like joy was missing. She didn't feel loved and accepted by her family and friends, and also just felt out of touch or out of sync with her inner wisdom, with her intuition. Just had never been able to like re-grab a hold of like that feeling of flow in her life that she had experienced pre-diagnosis with cancer. And what we discovered as we worked through this is that it wasn't the cancer diagnosis or even, what had transpired between her and her spouse that had created that shift, because the cause of the shift was actually present even before, long before she was diagnosed with cancer. And what we surfaced for her was that it was because of a mental association. There was a limiting belief or conditioning that developed out of her childhood that her worth came from the act of pleasing others. So, more specifically, like if everyone around me is happy and at peace, or happy and okay, or in agreement with my reality, then I can be okay and I can be happy and joyful and at peace within myself. And so what shifted for her was not that she got cancer, but that all of a sudden her spouse wasn't in agreement with her reality. They had some disagreements about what was right or wrong. And her relationship had never been the same, and consequently her health and everything else had felt off since this time as well. And so what we talked about is that when we have these mental associations, we have, like, the mind creates a dependency on, so it looks like as long as the people in my life are happy, I can be okay too, right? So as long as that condition is being met, which it was up until her cancer diagnosis, then she felt okay. Like, she felt free enough to be okay, happy, joyful. But the second that condition that the mind had created for her wasn't validated by her reality, everything kind of fell apart. And I see this pattern a lot, and I was thinking about it this morning in relation to my own healing journey, because that moment for me was either toward the end of my pregnancy with my daughter or shortly after. Many of you know, I talk about it a lot, that I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes during that pregnancy. And my life has never been the same since then, even though I've healed my digestive system since then. That was a huge turning point, a huge shift in my life. And, at the time I regarded it as my blood sugars, right, and my digestive health. Like, if only I could fix that, then my life would go back to being the way that it was. And I started thinking about this from the perspective of the mental association, and I realized what really changed in that moment was that I no longer had time really to myself anymore. So in the years, dating back to even childhood, like, I craved alone time, and it wasn't so much that I needed it, but it was the only, I would often retreat to my room because it felt like the only time and space where I felt free to really fully be with myself. And so even through the first many years of my marriage and my adult life, I still always had time to retreat from the world around me to be with myself. And now that there was a child that I was responsible to take care of, that ate up any me time that I had left. And so that was, that sip or that breath of being able to just be with myself, to be in my own thoughts, to be in my own feelings, was like a lifeline for me. It was, probably, looking back, it was probably the last remaining connection that I had to joy. And so the birth of my daughter heralded in this dependency. Like, it really revealed this dependency that I had on that time, that retreat time to myself. And in the absence of that, I wasn't okay. And that showed up in my health, that showed up in my marriage and my relationships and my work. It showed up everywhere. So yeah, I just wanted to surface this because I think it's relevant to anybody who's on their healing journey. It's really, I think, something really important to talk about and think about and reflect on, because it's also a way for us to take back our power in our healing journey, because it's not about, healing isn't about fixing our bodies. It's about removing the conditions that our mind has created for our health to be okay and good and even vital and vibrant. So yeah. Let me know what you think. I'm curious to see what your reflections are and how you relate to this. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. We'll talk to you soon.